President Trump isn't the only elected official running for re-election in 2020. Political lightning rod Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will face a Republican challenger.
This week, businesswoman and veterans advocate Cherie Murray launched her campaign to represent New York's 14th congressional district. She joins 4 other Republicans who have already filed to run. Joining us now to discuss the race is political reporter for The Hill, Julia Manchester. Great to see you, Julia.
Good to see you guys.
How's life?
Yeah, it's great. Can't complain.
There you go. So what is the play here? Do these Republicans, I mean, this is a very blue district, right?
Right.
Do these Republicans actually think they could win, or do they just want to get attention?
So my sense is that they don't actually think they can win. I think this is a way for the Republican Party to kind of take a stand against AOC, who stands so much against for what Republicans stand for. And it's not just Cherie Murray running. There's 2 other Republicans, including one of radio host Mark Levin's producers, who is challenging AOC.
Well, that tells you everything you need to know right there.
Right.
This is a great way to get on Fox News.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's his gateway. But Cherie Murray's so interesting because she's a Jamaican immigrant. She's from the area. She can, try to appeal to that, I guess, diverse population in that district. But it's a really blue district. And it's been, even before AOC, it was extremely blue, just more of establishment Democrat. And I think that's one thing, if we just look at primary challenges we see to a lot of establishment Democrats, we have to realize that in these districts, they're mostly blue. So they're not going to end up facing a Republican for real, if you will.
Well, I believe we have a clip of her announcement. Let's take a listen.
But your representative in Washington chooses self-promotion over service, conflict over constituents, resistance over assistance. You deserve someone fighting for you, not fighting for the limelight. You deserve someone who will focus on immigration, infrastructure, and education. That's why I'm running for Congress.
Gotta say, it's compelling.
Yeah.
I know she doesn't have a shot, but man, that's
if you live
bad.
there, you might vote for
I might vote for it.
Right.
But you don't.
And there was one person who wasn't mentioned in that video, and that was Donald Trump. So clearly, I mean, she says she's a Trump supporter and she supports the president, but I think she realizes that maybe she has a better chance if she actually focuses on the issues. And I think she's very much prepared for the fact that AOC will tie her to Trump.
Of course. Yes. I mean, it's not going to happen. But it's interesting. And what about on the Democratic side? Have any more establishment or centrist Democrats stood up to challenge AOC?
I mean, you're hearing rumblings about it, and I believe there was someone who talked more openly about it the last time I checked.
Crowley still has his power base there.
Crowley every once in a while pops up on MSNBC.
Exactly. I think he was on CNN, I want to say, yesterday. So he's still around. But, I think Democrats in the district and, I think establishment Democrats across the country really learned a lesson that they can't necessarily be asleep at the wheel. I mean, I remember watching that, the Netflix documentary, Bring Down the House. There was one scene where she shows up to a debate and Crowley sent a representative instead of showing up there himself. So I think it shows how out of touch she really was with the community. But to her credit, I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is such a charismatic candidate. So she didn't win just because of demographic change or just because Joe Crowley wasn't necessarily present. She's genuinely a really good candidate.
Her opening ad, that scene, I don't know if you guys remember, when she's standing on the subway platform changing out of like her flats into her heels, was just like, to me, such an iconic moment, because every working woman in that district, I'm sure, could relate to that hustle, gotta be here, gotta be, wearing all kinds of different hats. And she just knew how to capture people's imagination and relate to them from the jump there.
Right. She's so relatable, and I think that's how she relates to millennials. I mean, that scene of her changing out of her shoes, I mean, I do that every day. Women in the city do that every day. So she relates so well to the millennials and has really galvanized this portion of the voter, of the electorate, to really come out and vote. And I think that's something that really, dealt a death blow to Crowley in that primary.
I mean, the other thing that's interesting, you mentioned the fact that most of these districts where you've seen Democratic primary challenges are very blue districts. And that's not an accident, because basically the Justice Democrats' theory of change is that there's no excuse for having a sort of blue dog Democrat representing a more liberal district. So that is their theory of change and how you move the Democratic Party to be more of a progressive, true progressive party.
Absolutely. And you're seeing, Justice Democrats I've talked to these 2 candidates, Jessica Cisneros and Quayle Cuellar's district. I mean, she's very much tying Cuellar, even though he's a Democrat, to Trump, saying he wants to vote alongside Trump. You see Jamal Bowman.
And he has, in fact, voted alongside Trump more than most Democrats.
How's that working out for him, though? Because, I mean, Cuellar is literally from the border. And so that is, I mean, it's a very hard constituency because you have a large Latino population, but you also have quite a bit of, like, old school Texans who are not happy with illegal immigration.
Exactly. I mean, he's been in that post for years now, I believe, over a decade, and I think that gives him a challenge, a leg up of being an incumbent. However, Jessica Cisneros is different because she's younger. She's from, she's from that area, grew up in that area. She's an immigration attorney, so she brings a whole other, kind of side to the table, if you will. Up in New York, Jamal Bowman is one of Eliot Engel's two challengers, and these two challengers are really trying to paint Engel as someone who's a lukewarm Democrat, really, often being slow to sign on to issues like the Green New Deal. Jerry Nadler has 3 challengers in New York, but I've been talking to some. Yeah, I've been talking to some.
Jerry's pretty liberal.
He is.
Yeah, but he's like that old school.
Right. And I've been talking to some progressive circles about Jerry Nadler's challengers in particular. They're not getting as much steam as more of a Bowman or Cisneros, who have really been endorsed by Justice Democrats. Getting the Justice Democrats endorsement, I think, is key for really moving forward in these primaries. But Justice Democrats this cycle, they've said they don't want to endorse as many candidates as they did in 2018. I think they want to
focus.
Yeah, focus the ones they can have a decent shot of winning in.
So, Julia, what are the sleeping stories in 2020 on the Democratic side that we're really just not taking a look at? Not necessarily races. What are some trends that you're seeing that you think should get more attention? Right.
I mean, we're definitely looking in terms of progressive primaries. I mean, we're already looking at progressive primaries, and that's something that I'm definitely keeping an eye on in those fundraisings. In terms of the Democratic race, I mean, we're looking more into the presidential race. We're looking more into the dynamic between the front runners, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We are getting more of a sense that, I think there's been a narrative that's been painted that it's Bernie Sanders versus Elizabeth Warren. I don't think that's correct. I think it's more Joe Biden versus Warren and versus Kamala Harris. Yeah. Because we can just see in the way the Biden campaign has gone after those two candidates, they see them as a threat. And I think it's a threat because Joe Biden has constantly, it seems like he's running as a general election candidate against Trump. He wants to keep this a 2-man race despite it being a primary. And I think these 3 candidates, Harris, Sanders, or not as much Sanders, but Harris and Warren definitely are putting a dent in that.
I mean, I think this next debate is going to be critical for whether that Biden strategy is sustainable or not. Because if he sustains more blows from any other candidate, he's going to have to really get down in the weeds and fight it out, just like everybody else.
Another story, this isn't a story I've reported on in depth, but we're noticing that a lot of House challengers who lost in 2018 are now launching Senate bids. So you're seeing Amy McGrath challenging Mitch McConnell. We're seeing Cornyn's challenger in Texas. She lost that House race. So,
MJ Hager.
MJ Hager. So it's an interesting trend we're seeing. It's not a ton of them, but I think it shows that a lot of these candidates, they're ready for a bigger race, and they're not used to the statewide race, but it shows, their fundraising numbers and such show how popular they are.
You can build a national fundraising base now as even a congressional candidate. That was never possible before. I mean, 2018 was really sort of a watershed, at least on the Democratic side, for that trend. And then people say, okay, I got all these names, I got all the support. Let's take it to the next level.
Change the game,
Julia, thank you so much.
Great to see you guys.
Coming up on Rising, what do baseball and the economy have in common?
According to Fannie Mae Senior Vice President Doug Duncan, maybe quite a lot. He explains more next.